Barely, a little better? Okay. So, the biggest risk for Alzheimer's disease is aging. Right? And all of us... I'm speaking to the mic. I'll have to turn it up a little bit because I can't...
Try this one.
Okay. How about...
That works.
How about this? Is that better? So it's not getting reverb. So, what I'll say it again. The biggest risk for Alzheimer's disease is aging. We all show cognitive decline and body wear and tear as we age, but aging is not a disease, and Alzheimer's is a disease. But the truth is that we don't really see the onset of Alzheimer's disease normally until around the age of 60 or so. Sometimes earlier, sometimes a little later. But it is age-related. So it seems that there must be some relationship between aging and Alzheimer's disease per se. And I'm interested now in trying to find out what that relationship is between aging and Alzheimer's disease. And it turns out that we know less about why we age and how we age than we do about Alzheimer's disease. More study, more facts have been determined about the process of Alzheimer's disease. And less is known in reality about the mechanisms of how it occurs. So we've been developing techniques in the lab to try to tease out the relationship between aging and the disease. And we've been developing some techniques that allow us to separate out these two processes. And I want to tell you a little bit about one of these methods that we're doing, just as an idea, and some of the results we have. So what we can do is we can take a small biopsy from an individual, anyone, and we can assess these individuals. We convert them, interestingly, from whatever cell we take from the body. We can make them directly into neurons, brain neurons, and we can, or other cells of the body. And we can, by this process of directly converting them into neurons, we can look at the neurons and how they're functioning in the individuals. And what we find is that there are genes and proteins in these cells that are directly correlated with aging. So we can identify neurons and we can identify the age-related changes. So we take biopsies from very young people and biopsies from very old people, and we can see the differences between them. One of these genes that we have been focusing on, one of these proteins that are coded by these genes, is a gene that protects a structure inside the cell called the nucleus. And it acts as a gatekeeper to protect the DNA that sits inside the nucleus. So you have a cell body, and inside the cell body is a nucleus, and inside the nucleus is your DNA. And there's this class of proteins that protect the outside from coming in and damaging your DNA. Well, it turns out that some of these proteins are downregulating, decreasing their function as we age. And this is a natural process that occurs under normal conditions. That's normal, healthy aging. All of us will go through this process where, with time, this barrier and protection of our DNA will decrease. So we've now initiated a large study where we're comparing various Alzheimer's disease patients with genetic forms of Alzheimer's disease, sporadic forms of Alzheimer's disease, even early onset Alzheimer's disease, and we're examining the rate at which these guardians of the nucleus, which protect the DNA, are declining, and whether or not the rates are changing depending upon the age of the individual and the onset of their disease and the progression of their disease. Our goal is to, with time and as we're looking at this now, developing ways in which we can protect that nucleus, not just in the normal healthy aging, but that would be a nice process as well. But obviously, to see whether or not the decline that we're seeing in aging and in Alzheimer's disease are related to each other, and whether or not protecting that nuclear membrane will protect against the DNA damage that is inevitably happening. So that's one little story that we're up to. Thanks for coming.